Hello boys and girls, and welcome to my Nichicon Kitchen. Today I'm going to show you my favorite recipe of all time, and to do that I brought along my assistant Junko and the intern to help. So come on in. Hope you're hungry for some baked capacitor. Welcome back, kiddies. This recipe is a capacitor family favorite. Mama Capacitor used to bake it all the time for Dr. Capacitor Sr. Basically, this is the process of attaching the capacitor to the circuit board, but there are two ways to make it, depending on if you have through-hole parts or surface mount parts. For through-hole parts, we start by mounting the parts to the surface of the circuit board with the leads of the capacitor going through the holes in the circuit board. We clip off the leads so that they aren't too long on the non-mounted side, and apply resin to help with the next stage of soldering. Kind of like butter. It cleans the leads and makes the whole dish come out better. For surface mount parts, the caps are typically distributed on tape through a reel. It's kind of like how they used to show movies in the old days. As you can see, these little caps are quite different than the through-hole parts because they can be soldered directly to the PCB. Now that we've prepared the recipes for each of the two kinds of mounting, it's time to start cooking. Flavor Town, here we come.
Bonjour, mes amis. Thanks for being here today. I'm here to help with baking the capacitor.
Thanks, Shuko, for being here. I just wish you'd let me make it the good old American way, not your Frenchy croquet capacitor.
Ciao, signore capacitore. And maybe today we'll make a capacitorioli?
Not today, Junko.
Okay, Dr. Capacitor. Today we'll make you a baked capacitor.
So, I have your permission to continue? Now that we have our ingredients together, it's time to solder them up. Bake them. There are two main ways parts are soldered down. The first is called reflow, and the second is called wave soldering. Reflow soldering is used with surface mount parts, where the parts sit on top of the solder. Heat is applied to the top side of the board, and the solder melts to connect to the rest of the circuit. The reflow stages are as follows. First, the preheat stage, which heats up the board to the temperature between 150 and 180 degrees C for about 1 to 2 minutes. Second, we turn up the heat to allow the solder to melt. The temperature is ramped up to 230 degrees C, and the boards go through a 240 to 260 degrees C flash baking, where the solder reflows and covers the lead wires. Finally, the cooling process occurs to allow the circuit board to return to normal temperatures.
Yeah, but that's so complicated.
It's not really so hard, Junko. But there is another way to make baked capacitor if you're using through-hole parts. It's called wave soldering. Basically, the parts are soldered to the board by passing over a bubbling solder bath of 260 degrees C for up to 10 seconds. Only the bottom of the board gets heated while the circuit board acts like an insulator, making sure the components on the top side are protected from high temperatures and stay cool. So that's the basics. Now we just need to throw our capacitors in the oven and wait for our scrumptious baked capacitor. Now that's done, it's time to clean the circuit boards. Like dirty dishes. I hate PCB cleaning so much, I went and got an intern to do the dirty work for me. But be careful. You can't use any old chemical to clean the PCB boards. These days, most people use deionized water called DI water or alcohol-based solvents. But back in the day, early PCBs were cleaned with Freon. But the halogens in the chemical would destroy the aluminum electrolytics. Well, James, what are you doing? Get to work.
Ever since I got here, Dr. Capacitor is always making me do the dirty work. I have to make sure the water pressure is not too high, not too hot, and that the spraying jets are at just the right angle. If I don't, sleeves or end caps can become deformed.
And that comes out of your paycheck.
I didn't know I was getting paid. I also need to make sure to carefully dry the capacitors to prevent end cap bulging or sleeve shrinking. It sure ain't an easy job.
Yeah, James, but the doctor's got to eat. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Chez Doctor Capacitor.
Bon appetit!
Next, she'll be saying mercy buckets instead of thank you. What she means is, we hope you enjoy your baked capacitor.